Okay, so let's look at another brush thing. And I'll probably have one more thing to say about that this week, but that's it. So this is a different way of doing this. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to grab a raster image, which is this, okay? Which is this. Let me get this to fit. Which is this floating on a transparent background. I'm in Photoshop right now. Does that make sense? And it's a big scan, so I'm going to drop it down. It's too big. And then I have to go up here to, I think it's object. Right here to object rasterize. Now it's kind of weird because it's already a raster image, but I think Illustrator has to rasterize it its own way or whatever. And yeah, that's fine because I think I'm in CMYK. So that should be whatever it should be. I'm just gonna leave it at high. I got it on transparent and I'm gonna hit, everything else should be okay here.
Mike?
Yeah.
If you mean by transparent, that means the background is transparent, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha, like a PNG file.
Yeah, so PNG file will work too.
Okay, gotcha. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. And then we're going to go here to our palette. I got this selected, and then I'm going to go add a brush. And I'm going to go art brush. And then we get this again, stretch diffusive fixed. I'm going to put pressure. You know, we could adjust that. It's going left to right, that's what this means. This one over here, you should have this checked on most of these because it's just talking about overlap and overlap weird if you pick the other one. And then that should be, that's our key color. Which is weird. Okay, I'm gonna get okay. And there it is right there. You guys see it?
Yes.
I'm gonna go to my brush. Wait, I'm gonna get off of this brush. Now I'm in my brush. I'm gonna pick this one. I'm gonna make it smaller. I'm gonna go to 25. And now I get this watercolor brush. Does that make sense? Okay, so you can see here I have two profiles, and what this is this a half a profile of a bottle? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I'm going to grab this one and go Control C. Go back over here. We're going to start talking about 3D a little bit, and then I'm going to go V, and then I'm going to go up here to Effect, 3D and Materials, and I'm going to go to Revolve. And see, it gives me this weird thing. The reason it's doing that is because right here, it says offset direction from, it needs to be on the right edge. And it creates this, based on that profile, it creates this bottle. Does that make sense?
So basically, if we create a profile, Illustrator will automatically generate a 3D image.
What this is you have a profile shape, and what Illustrator does is it takes that and rotates that shape all the way around.
Okay.
And then turns it into a 3D object. So you can see here that it's got a flat top, okay? And I put these little shapes in here to indicate the threads, right? Now I can come in here, go up here to lighting, change the lighting around. These are presets for the lighting. Intensity. Height of the lighting. Softness of it. Intensity. So I can blow it out, pull it back a little bit. I can add shadows, which I'm not going to do right now. I just click this button on. Now, here's another thing. If you look right here, that's a ray trace button, okay? So what you're seeing when you work, like if I put a shadow on this, it's going to be a pretty hard edge, funky looking shadow. It's because you're working in preview, or not really kind of preview. You're looking at a working view. Okay. When I hit ray trace, it will render it all out and it will look way smoother. The shadows will look nice and soft. It'll get higher highlights and things if you're doing something very specular. But when you're working, the reason I'm not turning it on right now is this, it'll probably crash my thing. Okay. It eats a lot of memory. This machine I'm on is one of the ones the school gave me, so it probably doesn't have a lot of power. That's probably why on this one. But you have to hit that, when you're sort of done messing with it right here to really render it. Does that make sense?
Ray trace is
Yes.
kind of like a rendering machine, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can see I got a flat top. Let's see right here. Where is it? Oh, we're in material. So let's go back to object. And like here, it has a cap. I'm gonna hit the other one. And it might not work on this because it's got a flat bottom. That's probably why. I'll show you something else in a minute. Okay, so let's look. So if I wanted this to look a little more like that cap has an interior. This profile, I dropped down a little bit. I could drop it down even more, actually. Let's see. Control C. Let's go to Effect, 3D Materials, Revolve, left to right edge. And you can see it looks a little more like it has an interior now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, let's take this and let's get a different color. Oops. Of course, it's on line, not fill, like always. And just did it again. Okay, there it is. Let's go here. Let's go to here. Let's go to put it here and see how that works. And let's go to, I need a fatter font, I think. Come on. There it is. Let's go to let's see how this does. So ugly that is. Now it's too much. Yeah, that's better. I'm gonna outline this. I probably need to outline it. So I'm gonna go type, create outlines. I'm gonna group it, just make it easier. And then I'm gonna go over here to our symbol thing. Just kind of weird they do it in here, but that's what they did. Now I'm gonna put it in here. Go to graphic, okay. Then I'm gonna go back to my 3D window. I'm going to go to materials, drop down here. And now I can take this and wrap that around this. So it needs more top and bottom, you can see. So I'd have to make this graphic a little longer. But do you see how it wraps it around that?
Yes.
See, it ran out over here.
That is really, really cool.
It is cool. And it's really simple. Yeah.
I have a quick question. Does that mean this is product design, right? That means product designers will use illustrators in order to create a product like this, for example, right?
What I would use this for probably, if I was doing a real quick idea like this, you know. Now you got to remember also
okay.
when I ray trace this is all going to get really clean and smooth. And by the way, I could do another profile. I could take this. Let's see if we can do this. So I'm going to go to Control R, get my rulers. I'm going to go. That's my edge right there. Let's do it like that. And I'll just clip it here. Oops. Now I'm not sure if I can do these at the same time, but I'm going to try it. So I got to go up here to view. Where are my guides? Should have a clear guides. Here it is, guides, clear guides. Okay. I'm going to make this maybe this color. Oops. And of course, it's on the wrong thing, as usual. And this one I'll make. Now, I don't know if I can do these together. I'm going to try it. Probably not is my guess, but let's see. 3D materials, evolve. You got to go. Where did my thing go? Yeah, probably can't because I'm doing two. So let's go back. Let's go. Well, that's weird. Why is that open? It should not be open. Hang on. That's weird. Come on, where's Pathfinder? That's weird. Where did Pathfinder go? Oh, here it is. I'm not sure why it's showing it like that. That's really weird. Oh, I know why. Hang on. Because of this. There it goes. So if I had started these where I had them, this should be a little bigger, but you know, it's a little bigger, and that would be the cap. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
So if I start them in the same spot, they should line up pretty good. Okay, so I could put a cap over it. I'd cover all this up, obviously. Okay, also, so you can load your own things in there, but if I go to materials, I'm going to go to materials, not graphics. I'm going to materials. That's default. So this would be a lot shinier when I render it. Okay, because you can see it's a shiny surface. But I got all these, you know, too. And again, when you render them, they're going to look really clean. Okay. And I can come down here, wherever it is, go back up here to lighting. Turn on shadows. You know, depending on where the lighting is, that's where it's going to throw the shadows. And then I can do distance from the object. This will not be a hard edge like that when you render it. It'll be a softer edge. And so on and so forth. They can play with all these. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
You know what this would really work good for? This, when you if I was doing like a real simple like kids toys, like real simple forms and things like that, and I could just knock out a whole bunch of ideas, a whole bunch of different paint textures and different graphics and things like that on it, like one of those bath toys or something like that. Does that make sense?
I see. Yes.
So let's
Does,
go
does
ahead.
the result of a 3D render like this usually live in the digital space, or can it be printed, or how does that work? Like, can that image be printed, or is that just for a digital purpose only?
Anything can be printed.
Okay.
They're not going to limit. What you would do is you would do the same thing we did before. You would go, I mean, you don't have to even do this probably, but let's go back. There it is. And I go, I mean, if I was done with it and I just want to put it in my lineup and not mess with it, I could go object again, expand appearance. And now it's just an object. That makes sense?
Yes.
You know, and then I would just do my lineup. I would do, this is one of those things where I could just do a real quick, you know, I'd have different ones, obviously. I could do a real quick lineup, go into a meeting and have 12 different ideas around it early on, real simple. Okay. And I could get my custom shape, you know, because that's the thing. Sometimes people go, well, I can just go in Photoshop and get a bottle shape or whatever. And it's like, I know, but it's not a custom shape. You're at the mercy of whatever you find. Right.
Yeah.
And I do not like being at the mercy of whatever I find. I hate that. Let's make this a color. Now, my computer's giving me some trouble earlier today, so hopefully it won't do it now. So now back to the 3D, edit, 3D. On this time, I'm going to go extrude and bevel. Now you can see it's holding on that information just like it does with all the other filters, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to go, here's my, I'm going to go to object. I'm going to go all the way up. Depth. How deep do I want that to be? Let's get rid of this. We don't need that right now. Oops. And then I've got, and now if I go to plane here, it'll give me presets for how it's angled. So if you click that, you go down, it'll just have a bunch of drop down presets, which like, you know, you can angle it this way or this way, but I can also do it by hand, which is what I'm doing right now. This is kind of interesting. It will twist it different ways. It'll taper it. And then here in this menu here, got to turn it on. See how it's beveled it? Can you guys see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So I've got all these profiles right here, round, convex, step, all these different things that I can play with. Here's the height. Repeat, which just stair steps it, I guess. Step. Let's go convex. Square outline. That one's kind of cool. I like that one. See what the width does. Okay. And again, you have all these things in here. This is just rotation here. Right there. Sometimes it's easier to dial it in right there. Perspective. And then it should have, oh, right here, lighting. So you got to go to this over here for lighting. And then I can just take this and place my lighting where I want it on this thing. Here's some presets. And again, we go back to the same thing, intensity, all that stuff, rotation. Sort of like, that's kind of dramatic right there. Softness of the light. It's not really doing, oh, that'll probably only happen when you render it. Ambient light, there's it off, there's it on. And intensity of the light. Intensity up here. You have all these presets. Does that make sense? For all these things you can play with. And you can still go here and do the same thing. And apply a texture. Or what this is a little different. If you put a graphic in there, I don't know how it's going to wrap on there, but you know, you got all these textures and things, right?
Yes.
Now, what I'm curious about is what type of file they're using for their textures. And then you got a thing here, which I'm assuming, yeah, add materials. So what I don't know this, and I'll find out what is the requirement when I add a texture, because I've tried it with just a with a raster image and it doesn't work. So there's probably some file type it wants. Does that make sense?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Got it. I think it's OBJ, probably.
Could be. But I have to look that up. But what this is great for, one of the things it's great for is like infographics where you want that type of look. Now, again, see how it's holding the information? If I didn't want to do that anymore, expand appearance. And now it's just a shape. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, so we have object, materials, lighting. When you put your own graphic or whatever in symbols, that will be under materials under graphics right here. So there's the one we made earlier. And you just, you know, once you drag it into symbols, then it pops up in here. Oh, another thing. So I made a graphic. If you make a graphic, like we just wrapped around the bottle, and then I go into another file and I make another 3D object or whatever, and I go, I want to wrap that same thing around it. It won't be there. It'll be there, but it's like grayed out. It's weird. I think you have to make it in the file that you're working on. Does that make sense?
I see, yes.
Which is in one way, it makes sense in my brain, and another way it doesn't. Because maybe you don't want to have every symbol you've ever made in every document you open. It could get pretty big, but I mean, it's not like it's hard to do. You just cut and paste in a new document, drag it in symbols, and there it is, right? I'm going to grab my white arrow tool and get my little buttons here, which I always forget the name of. And then I'm going to go back up to 3D effect, 3D materials. And this time I'm going to go to inflate. And it literally inflates it. You guys see that?
That's,
Yes.
Now, again, this is the default thing. If I render this, it's going to be really shiny like a Mylar balloon. Does that make sense?
yes.
So I'm going to go, but you look, so we have this, but I can go inflate both sides. And it inflates both sides. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to go to lighting. I'm going to go back to object. Now twist on this would be weird. Yeah, that's just weird. So let's see what we got here. It's not too bad. Volume. Can make it a little thinner. Let's try something here. Let's do this. I think I might be in the same file, so this might work. Let's see. Go to materials. And there's our graphic. You know, then you have these too, by the way.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so you can resize it. Then it just follows the form once you do that. Right?
Yeah.
Or again, you could go to your materials. Or go, so we're in graphics, go back to materials. Wow, oh, it keeps both. I didn't think it would do that. So it applies the texture over or under the graphic. That's interesting. That's kind of interesting. Go back to graphic. Let's see if we can go here. Yeah, it's interesting. Let's see what happens if I do this. Yeah, so there it is. Make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
That's inflate. Now, on your computers, you should be able to go to ray trace and trace it, unless you got a really low powered computer. I think this one's fairly low powered. Just one other simple tool, really simple tool, but it actually really matters. So sometimes when you're like painting, you go in and you go, I want to fill this area in. But what you're really doing, if you look at it in Y view, it's really just a scribbly, they're lines. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Which isn't really what you want. It's that A, okay, so A, that's going to create, anytime you create, the more points you create, the more every time you move something, the more, you know, like if I do this, and I move this, if I got 1 billion points, Illustrator's going to go boom, and it's going to go bing, 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 and render all those points. If you have a whole lot, okay, that's what this can create. Okay, so you don't really want to do that because if you look, so if I take this and I reduce it down, that's really what you have is it's a mess. It's just not a good way to work. So right here with your brush tool is a blob tool, which does, I want to fill an area in. Now it's just a, paint mark. Does that make sense?
It's a shape constructor.
It's a shape
type.
So now I don't have all those points and all that nonsense that I got to deal with. So if I want to come in here, I might be, it's just like this. Wait, let's do this. Because you do have this option on one. Of freehanding in this program. I just think a lot of people don't realize that you can do really cool stuff freehand in here. And if I'm making my own thin to thick brushes, like, let's do something here. Let's go. Let's see if this works. You can try all kinds of different shapes. Make an art brush. Let's leave it like that for now. Got this is good. Now, right here where it says, it's not giving me my, oh, here it is, method. If I go to tints, that'll allow me to change the color of it, okay? Otherwise, it'll just stay black all the time. Oops. You get a nice thin, thick thing. Now you can play around with these and create all kinds of really good drawing brushes this way. So let's do this. Oops. Let's go back to here. Let's go here and let's just go this way and this way. So when I go really light, I get that. When I go light to heavy, I get that. You can see I could make some pretty nice freehand. I'm going to go to 125. Some pretty nice inking brushes. And if I start with a smaller shape, I think I'm going to get a smaller shape, by the way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And we should be able to go, yeah. Because I put it on tints, I can change the color. Make sense?